Hello.
Girl, I think this is the first time you've seen me on a call without my pajamas.
I know you do look different.
And you're just waking up.
Yes, I am. Definitely.
Well, welcome to the Cosmic Valkyrie podcast. I like to
Thank you.
record the beginnings because I know that sometimes banter is just like there's some good juicy stuff in there.
A
I
hundred
see that
percent. I'm ready.
you just got back from holiday or you just got back from house sitting.
Yeah, I was house sitting for some good family friends of mine. I just wanted to help them out. It's about an hour and a half from where I live, and it was such a beautiful location and a very cute dog. So yes.
Everyone, this is Sofia Bernard. She was my business coach. I was just in her mastermind. I think that maybe a month ago, 2 months ago was the when I exited it. But I was like, let's dig in. I want my audience to get to know you a little better because I'm total mindset. Like I do have strategy and a bonus and all that sometimes, but my magic, as we know, is mindset. So I wanted to share your magic with my audience.
I'm
And I should
excited.
I should let you know ahead of time that I don't time this. I don't time it at all. These go
No,
on
that's fine.
in my group and everywhere. So long format where my people like long format. But just
Perfect.
introduce yourself. Share who you are, what you do, who you serve.
Yeah, so my name's Sofia Bernardi. I live in sunny Australia and I am a mindset and business coach. So I specialize in particular with helping female coaches to grow their coaching business the simple and sustainable way through running impactful online events.
Events. Okay, so I want to know because I haven't really dove into your own personal story, but I remember probably about a year
Mhm.
ago, I saw you sharing a video of when you first started your business and you were crying against a wall. And I want to
Yeah.
know like what made you want to start a business and then what got you to that point and then what
Mhm.
shifted for you. So
Yeah.
why did you want to start a business to begin with? What was the instigator?
Yeah. So when I was in school, all of my friends knew what to do with their life. They knew what they were going to go and study in college or university. And I just had no idea. I was such a lost soul. And the only thing I did know is that I wanted to help people. And the only thing I could think of in regards to doing that was becoming a psychologist. But something didn't feel very right about that. That felt very clinical to me. I'm not against it by any means, but for my personality and me, I just visualize sitting in a dark room in a chair diagnosing people all day. And I know it's not quite like that, but that's what I visualized. And so that was the only way I knew I could help people potentially. And on top of that, I wasn't very good in school. I have dyslexia, if you want to go by labels, and I just really struggled in school. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get into psychology anyway because the criteria is super high. And then on top of that, when I turned 16, I found out that my dad had a really severe gambling addiction. And when I found that out, my whole family just split and everything just went to shit, basically. My parents decided to split up because my dad was, quite unhealthy to be with for various reasons. And my mum is from Denmark in Europe, which is on the complete other side of the world. And when they split up, she had no choice but to go back there to be with her family because we had no money. My dad had put us in a really terrible situation where people were after us and he owed a lot of money to the wrong people. So, with very, very little notice, my mum, my brother, my sister, and I packed a suitcase each, and my grandparents paid for our ticket to go to Denmark so that my mum could be with her family and that we could be safe and my mum could be able to support us essentially. And so, you know, I was confused then, but then when that happened, my whole life just completely flipped on its head. And before you knew it, I was on the other side of the world in a different country, in a different climate, with a different culture. And I couldn't even like speak the language, let alone function in school. And so I wasn't great at school in English, let alone all of a sudden in Danish, right? So I was in grade 10 then, 16. So I was only a couple of years away from finishing school. But now that I was doing it in another language, I had to backtrack and it took me an extra couple of years. And so I certainly didn't get the grades to get into psychology anyway. So I spent many years feeling really lost, really stuck, had no idea what to do with my life. I was just working casual jobs. Fast forward 4 years, I moved back to Denmark, Australia on my own, still lost. And and then I went through this big breakup, and that just broke me into a million pieces, and I didn't know how to cope with that at all. And that forced me to enter the personal development world because I needed to learn how to cope with my emotions. It's not something I had ever learned. So I started reading books and watching YouTube videos and actually documenting the process on YouTube as well, finding my purpose, building confidence, building independence. Um, and it was through that work that I found some of Tony Robbins' books, which really helped me. I know people either love him or hate him, but at the time, it really helped, 18-year-old Sophia.
Yeah.
Um, and anyways, one day I was reading the book and one of my mum's friends, she said, "Why don't you go to his seminar? I think he comes to Australia." And I never thought of that as a possibility. And I was like, true. Like, and I looked it up and the ticket was $997. And for me, I think I was 21. That just was such a stretch. I'd never spent that much money on myself. And anyways, I ended up on a sales call with his team. And I think they called me like 5 times before I joined. Like I was so nervous. But even though I knew I wanted to do it, eventually purchased the ticket. I did have the money. I was just so scared. Purchased the ticket. It was in Sydney, so I had to fly there. But because it was such a big investment to me, I was like, right, this is going to change my life. I'm going all in on this. And I went there and I took every note possible. I played full out. And I had this big breakthrough realization seeing Tony on stage and then also just seeing all of these people that I was suddenly immersed with. It's a different type of person that goes to those sorts of seminars. And it was my first exposure to people interested in personal development. And I just had this light bulb moment of like, hold on, what Tony Robbins does is a career path. Like that's people can do that. Everyone at this seminar was a coach. I'd never really heard of it. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could be a coach. Maybe I could be on stage one day. And, you just get drilled in your mind at these seminars like, hire a coach, hire a coach. Like, all successful people have a coach. Like, again, whether you want to believe it or not, like, I believed it. And so, what's the first thing I did when I left? I hired a coach to help me become a coach. And again, super scary, but I had like 4 days of it being drilled into my mind that that's the way to success. So, I hired someone, taught me the process on how to start. And as you would have seen from that video of me crying, it was really hard, but I kept going and here we are today.
You know what I think there's this huge myth that self-development and even business ownership, like building a business, is supposed to be done alone. And you cannot build a business, nor can you expand your own personal development without the help of somebody else. Like we're all operating at the capacity of our capabilities. I had a similar experience when I hit like a wall. It was probably a couple decades ago, and I hired my first coach, and she saw in me the cosmicness that I'd been hiding for decades. Like I was just like, no, nobody wants to know that, whatever. And so she introduced me to Abraham Hicks. And that was my first, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so I got into Abraham Hicks. I was like reading all Abraham Hicks books and like listening to the YouTubes and the DVDs and stuff. And then Abraham Hicks came somebody was like, well, have you ever been to Abraham Hicks seminar? I don't know what they're called. And I was like, no, they go, you could do it live.
Same
And
thing as
so,
me. Hey.
right. And so it was like in Rochester, but it was so funny because for me at that point in my life, it was like, I think $400 or something like that. And it was such a big investment. It was such like, oh my God. And then I have to drive there and then I have to do all these things. But it set me
That's so
into a
funny.
different,
That's more or less the exact same scenario. Yeah.
right. And but it set me into a whole different path. Like my first
Yeah, same.
coach, the thing I love about coaches is you can quickly outgrow them. And you can like, so she was like, oh, like I hired her for a year. I paid her for the entire year. And 3 months into it, she was like, okay, I've done all I can here. You have to go,
Wow.
I'll go to this person. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Because you bring up such a good point. You have to be willing to do what it takes. No matter what it is, whether it's personal development or growing a business, you have to be willing to do what it takes. And all of it's hard.
Yeah, it is. And I definitely found the first year in particular of business extremely hard. And I think that's why a lot of new coaches come to me, because I was so open about sharing my journey in the beginning. And obviously because I in the past I've marketed specifically to new coaches. And so I get their journey. I understand how difficult it is. Like, I didn't start with with business experience, with a degree, even with decades of experience. I was literally 22 years old. I just turned 22 when I actually started my business. Like, I was super young. I had no idea what I was doing. And I always showcase that today as evidence that, like, hey, if you have felt like lost a lot of your life, or like you've had no idea what you're doing, or you don't have some fancy certificate or qualification or degree, like it can still work, but you need the right support. Like you said, you need the right process and you need the right personality as well. And I think some of the personality traits can be learned. Like and then some are more, within you, if that makes
Ooh,
sense.
I
But
like that you bring that up, right?
yeah,
Because it does take it takes a drive and determination, but it has to be
exactly. And
backed.
I think that you can create a drive for sure. But I do think that some people have this grit, this determination, this burning desire more than others. And again, you can create it, but you have to it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to have drive now. It's like you have to really ignite that fire within. And I think my experiences of seeing my family be torn apart because of my dad's gambling addiction, I could have a whole podcast episode in itself telling you about all of the really dark times that happened within that whole experience of watching that, what happened to my mum through that. She's sort of never really recovered the same way. She really struggled moving her 3 kids overseas when they did not want to go overseas, and then start with no job, no money, a suitcase each. And, there wasn't even room for me in the place we were living in. I went and lived with my auntie for 3 years. There was just no space for me. It was just really, really tough for all of the reasons, and seeing my whole mum's like life and personality just disappear from the darkness of not only going through a divorce and being on the other side of the world and just losing everything overnight, but just her having to navigate like and hold 3 children's emotions at the same time. I didn't notice that at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, that would have been really hard. Like I struggled with a teenage breakup, a year and a half relationship. I can't imagine a 20-year marriage, and going through all of the things that she went through. It was terrible. So, that's where my drive came from. It was very much like, I don't ever want to be fucking in that situation ever, in when I get older. And also it forced me to have to become really independent and be like, well, my parents don't have any money to support me. So if I want a life of some description, I have to work for it. And so I've always been a hard worker, like since I was a kid, because that's just how I've been raised. And my environment of my grandparents, my dad, everything are hard workers. But this certainly took it to the next level in terms of like needing that extra security, because I saw what happens when you lose all of that and more.
Mm.
And so it was like almost like never enough. Like I needed a lot more security than probably the average person to feel safe and regulated.
Let
And
me
that was a big drive.
let me ask you this. So you have a multi-million dollar business, like you're going for multi-millions, I imagine this year, probably in that
Mhm.
realm. And how many, like so I talk about growing a business in ease and flow, right? And
Yeah.
I talk about the Be Do Have by Zig Ziglar. It's been around forever. Everyone knows it. But often I see the place where coaches get stuck in stepping into the entrepreneurial role is they forget you have to still do stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
not magically going to end up in your lap. And
Thank you for saying that.
right, like no, you still have to do the things. Like nothing in life is free. Like you have to be able to put in the work. It's not about like to complete exhaustion, but you have to work a lot. So my question to you is like, let's just talk about an average month. Okay. Like how many hours do you think you put in a month?
I put in a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Because I love it and I see the
Ooh,
reward from it. Yeah.
know that I tell people this all the time too. When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Like I never
Yeah.
feel
And
like I'm at
truly, it's
work.
like, don't get me wrong. I have hard days or moments. I'm so much faster at moving through those challenges that arise. But to be honest, like, I do work a lot. And it does change because, you know, I've created a very sustainable business, a very simple business that if I don't want to work or a friend comes over or I want to go away or whatever, like I just won't work. And so every week is different. Like, for example, yesterday my partner surprised me with a day spa for today. So I'm not working as much today. I've got this episode with you. I'm going to go for a walk and go to the gym. I'm doing this day spa thing and I'm probably going to really chill after that. I think I have like maybe one call, like a sales call later, and that's it. So today's not a very good, accurate description of what my days would look like. But yesterday I worked like the whole day. Do you know what I mean? And so I wouldn't be able to tell you, but it would probably be between 20 or 30 hours a week. Like I do work all day, every day, really, other than those like exceptions. But then, for example, Lynn, like I've booked 3 overseas trips this year. I'm going to Europe in July for 3 weeks, and I'm going to Fiji for a few days this year, and I'm going to New Zealand next month. And you best believe I won't be working much on all of those trips.
Mm-mm.
And so it's like it goes in seasons, right? So there will be some seasons where I literally the first thing I do when I wake up, I'll be honest, is like open my computer and get
I
going.
do the
And
same
then
thing.
and then the last thing I'm doing at night is shutting it. And then there are days where I almost forget to check my phone. So it really does change, but I do work more than the average 9 to 5 person, I would say, for sure.
And it all depends on your background. So a lot of women like that have joined my mastermind. Thank you very much. A lot of the women that
You're
are my
welcome.
mastermind are former or current career women, so like directors of human resources, therapists, like women that like I know my background when I was working corporate America, I was working 70-hour weeks. So like for
Mm.
me, when I
Yeah, that's a
hear,
lot.
25 to 30 hours a week, I'm like, that's perfect, right? Like
Mm.
that's hardly, that's not even a full-time job, and you're making
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's more, I have no idea, but like it just changes so much. And like some things I just don't, like you sort of said, just don't even count as work. Like this is technically working. Do I feel like I'm on the job right now? Not really. Do you know what I
right,
mean?
like
So it's
sitting
like
on your
I don't really
patio
account.
typing
Yeah.
up some
I
content, like is that really work? Let's like,
Yeah, and
right,
so it's
or
like
yeah.
yeah, and so that's why I'm like, I don't know, maybe I work 40 hours. I have no idea, but yeah, it's just different every day, I suppose, like because I do rest in between certain things in a day, but I'm still like on from 6:30 in the morning, maybe till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, but like there'll be a walk in between and a gym session in between and whatever. So it's not just like in this big bulk, which is why I struggle to exactly know. But when I say I work more than a 9 to 5, obviously, yeah, that's so different for everyone. But I certainly work more than the hours of like between 9 and 5 p.m. like collectively. Like I would say I'm on more than that more often than not. And I sometimes work weekends, but then again, then sometimes I don't do anything. So it's
What
just
are
so different.
weekends? Like
Yeah.
whenever anyone ever asks me, like, what are you doing this weekend? My weekends are full of hypnosis clients. Those are my
Mm,
busy, but I live with a chef. So he's always working. So my weekend is Monday, Tuesday. Like what's the, like it's all I
exactly.
like to
It's
call
like,
it structured freedom. Like we all get the
yeah.
opportunity to design our own life as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Um, so your specific modality, your specialty is helping people. Okay, so I just want to talk about myself when I was working with you for a while.
Mhm. Go for
So
it.
everyone here will know. Okay, so some of the things that really changed for me, and a lot of my listeners are probably new, some of them have been around for a while, but for about the past 4 years, I was I was recovering from a really massive car wreck. So I had to learn how to walk again. I had all this stuff.
Wow.
So during that time, I was building my business and it was successful. But also what I realized during that time is that I was really focused on taking care of myself. And the concept of having a bigger business was so frightening to me. Like, not just like, how can I do that and also focus on like healing my body, but what is that going to take? Because I had a corporate America mindset, right? I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
manage people all my life. Oh, I've done this, I've done that. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to be a solopreneur. And there's nothing wrong with being a solopreneur. There's nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with, and we have very uncomplicated businesses. It's very easy to make multiple six figures and be completely happy and content. But through my time with you, and I started really beginning to shift that mindset and realizing that, oh, now I'm finished with my healing. Like I'm done. Like
Mm.
probably as of 2 months ago, I'm like, oh, I finally am released from doctors, da, 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 da. And now this year I've set my sights on $1 million business. And you're part of that. Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Like,
That makes me so happy.
yeah, I learned, like, the thing is before all that happened, I had a program, a mastermindy, but it was 12 months long. And you said the most remarkable thing to me, because I was like, I don't ever want to do that again.
Mm.
It's a really long time for somebody to commit, but it's also a really long time for us to work with them if we don't like them.
Mm.
And that I was like, oh my God, you just took the words right out of my mouth. And so it really enabled me to start looking at what I wanted my mastermind to look like and
Mm.
what I wanted to host and how I wanted my business to change. And just like you, like bouncing ideas off me, even though I can be really stubborn and I had to learn the hard way about certain things. But like, it's been remarkable since working with you because like I don't know if anyone knows this, but I got rid of Cash Codex completely. I let it go. I'm not
Mm.
like I have all this strategy knowledge and
Mm.
people can get it at certain times for early action bonuses, whatever. But I was like, no, I'm a mindset. Like I am a thought leader. I'm a mindset coach. Like
Mm.
I was like, that's not even going to be an option. I'm not even ever going to launch it.
Yeah. Like focus on your zone of genius.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, maybe so it's always going to be the mastermind. And then I'm like, oh, but then maybe so Sophie tells me like how to structure my business, right? And so we picked out like the structure. So I'm like, oh, well, instead of Cash Codex, it will just be self-led E10X, like you can do this stuff. But I'm like, it really made a difference. Having someone to bounce it off of that it was like, that would be honest with me and like be
Totally.
like,
I couldn't
really,
do
you should,
anything but that. Yeah.
right? And then sometimes I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And then I do it and I'm like, oh man, I have to learn. Sometimes you just have to learn the hard way.
That
So
is so
you
funny.
focus. So in Sophie's mastermind, she focuses on helping you understand how to get from launching your business to like and becoming growing your business through hosting online events,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
What would you say are like what's like the timeline of it? How do you actually construct it so that they can get an idea if it would be appropriate for them?
Yeah. So running events, I have found, is one of the better ways to grow and scale your business, purely from the lens of it's really sustainable. Like you don't have to be on all of the time. Like I'll run one event a month, and that allows me to be able to travel and do all these things because I'm not needing to, like, some people do daily lives on Facebook or post content like 2 times a day, and they have to be so on and do all these things. Whereas I find when you run an event, if you follow a proper launch formula, which I'm happy to speak into, you're really attracting and nurturing your audience, and then you convert multiple people at once. So I find that really sustainable. Plus, you can change the way that you go about running events. You can do them, you can choose how frequently you do them, but also you can make it evergreen so that people can consume it on their own time once you've really nailed it. So I find it really sustainable from that lens. It is simple when you have a process to follow. If you're winging it, you're guessing it, I wouldn't say that events is very simple. It's not as simple as just doing a post. Like there's more things that go into making it work. But when you educate yourself and you do the above average things that the average don't want to do, then you get above average results. And that's what events allows you to do. And then it's really scalable because it's one to many, like you're delivering your energy once and it impacts many people at a time. So you have these really huge high cash injections as well. And if you set your business model up so that it's reoccurring revenue like I have, then not only do you get a big cash injection there, but then you're actually also, you've really stacked up your reoccurring revenue for the months to come. So it's really powerful from that lens. So I just wanted to speak into the benefits first, because if you don't know the benefits, you're not really incentivized to listen to the rest. So it's definitely what got me to $1 million for sure. And it's what I've done from day one in my business. It's just in day one, I didn't know what I was doing, but it just felt right to do it. It was something I just naturally did. And over the years, I've really learned a process on how to do it well and do it right. And now I just do that on repeat. And I just do the same event more often than not these days. And I'll make some tweaks and it works so powerfully. So there's kind of like three phases of it. You've got to have a proper plan for your event. You need to learn how to properly promote your event. So many people skip that and wonder why no one comes to their event. And then you need to know how to powerfully present it, be in your energy, know what to say, how to say things, subconsciously sell, know how to pitch at the end. All of these sorts of things go into it. And yeah, when you have that proper process in place, I call it the online event method that I teach, then you can create aligned, scalable results in your business.
I want to ask you, so um does do you stated that you pretty much do the same one over and over,
Mhm.
you just market it differently, like you're teaching the same stuff?
Well, for most of my business, I have been doing different ones, constantly reinventing the wheel. The overarching like concept or, formula would be the same. But yeah, I was thinking of new names. I was delivering, new information still within my niche, of course. And so often there was crossover. But to be honest, like, yeah, I was constantly reinventing the wheel. And I had this massive realization this year. I'm like, if I'm bringing in new leads all of the time, I don't need to constantly do a new event. I can just run the same one and get really, really good at that. And then once that one's totally nailed, I could maybe bring in 1 to 2 more and just then alternate between 3 different types of events. Mostly so I don't get bored out of my brains, but also just so there's a bit of variety if people aren't, for whatever reason, aren't converted from the first one, maybe here in the second one, we'll do a different. So yeah, now I just do the same event and it's been a game changer.
I totally I was doing the same thing. I was like hosting, and I figured out, like, for the past 2 years, I had a business coach before you that talked me into, because I have such experience in strategy, to start doing more strategy based business stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing like a different one every month and a half or so.
Yeah.
And about 4 months ago, I was like, no, I can't do it. So
Yeah.
I was like, I have one:
Yeah.
mastering your
It's
money
much better.
mindset. Like
Yeah.
that's the mother load. That's a training. That's not even like, it's a
Yeah,
chewy one,
exactly.
right?
You just do one and you make it so, so good. And yeah. And look,
I
I'll
think I'm
say
going to
like
have two or
yeah.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think like I only have one at the moment and it performs really well, but I want to improve all of the metrics on it. The sign up, the show up, the conversion, the email open rates. Like I want to just improve the metrics and nail one before I touch another one. And I have no regrets that I used to do lots of different events. Like it served my personality, my energy types, and that's how I learned what works and what doesn't from doing all of the things. And so there was nothing wrong there. It's more just I'm at a point of like, okay, I actually know what works. Why would I change it? Don't change what's not broke. Do you know what I mean? And so it's one of those things of like, if I want to keep getting 6 figures per event and so forth and beyond, then like, don't reinvent the wheel of the event that generates 6 figures. And so that's kind of been my mentality is just, making little tweaks to them and refinements, improvements, but just do the same event. Yeah.
So do you only do live events that are you talking?
Yeah, so I could deliver the same form of information in different ways, like whether I've done them so far as like 60-minute workshops inside my Facebook group, but you could do it via Zoom. You could split it into 3 days and do it over a 3-day challenge in your Facebook group. There's loads of ways you could deliver it. I could even deliver the same information, to be honest, in a paid workshop. It's that valuable. So yeah, you can deliver it in all sorts of forms, but for the most part I've been experimenting with doing just 60-minute or 90-minute workshops. Yeah.
I like that. The workshop, the master class that I am presenting the beginning of June is something that always has a really good conversion rate. And I had
Mm-hmm.
always done it in 5 coaching,
Mm-hmm.
like 5 days. And it was always pre-recorded. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I'm going to put it all together as one. And I like edited it. So it's like an hour 15, like it's an hour
Mm-hmm.
45 for 15 or something like that with the pitch. I included the pitch and everything in it. And it's going to be, people are going to have to watch, like it will come out that day, right? And all that kind of stuff. But I was
Yeah.
thinking, thank you, Sophia. I needed to make it more on brand,
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
better user experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I like took it and made it all like on brand. It's just me talking over a majority of it. But I know from the brain science aspect that my talking and then having the slides and what they say makes a difference in the ability for somebody to like process it. So I'm really conscious about images and words that I use on the slides. But I was like, oh, I want to. And I'm also super excited because I'm like, I want to create a better user experience within my E10X. So I'm like downloading all of the audios and I'm up leveling and making the user experience much better because working with you, I realized that we like, I always knew this, like even after create cells, right? Like you create more and more cells through the user experience too. Like cells doesn't start once somebody pays
Mm-hmm.
you. But I didn't have the clarity of what I wanted my brand to be.
Mm.
Like, you look at behind me. Remember what it was when I first started with you?
Yeah. No,
It was
you've
just
come a
like
long way. It looks beautiful.
plants, right? And
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
still got to keep the woo or the cosmic stuff in it, but
Totally.
but it's like really enabling all the noise of what other people say
Yep.
to just like what kind of clarity you want for the presentation and everything, because it all does. Like I was letting anyone post and anyone pitch in my group. And because of
Mm.
you, or like not because of you, I shouldn't say, but because of a conversation we had, I was like, oh, I really like the idea of it just being my voice. Although yesterday, Facebook bot started going after me.
I did see your post.
It's like it removed my banners, told me that they were copywritten. It like removed probably like, I don't know, 10 posts because it said
That's so
copyright.
weird.
And then like I'm talking maybe 100 comments and stuff. It's still going right now. Still going. I feel like maybe it's algorithms are designed to intimidate people into re-signing for verification. So I did.
Mm, you did.
Yeah, I had it last year and I was like, my card expired and I was like, oh, whatevs. I never like put in the new card and I was like, okay, I'll just put in the new card. But isn't it wild?
That
I'm
happens.
like
Yeah.
a photo of me, literally a selfie of myself.
That's so weird.
I know, but it doesn't make me any afraid. But how do you, okay, I want to ask you a question. What do you think the future of Facebook groups and stuff is going to look
Facebook
like?
equally um brings up a lot of feelings for me, like it does for you. Like I have my own frustrations with, I've had a lot of challenges with them as well regarding Facebook ads. Like, I've grown my business entirely organically. I've only just started ads this year, but I'm running ads on someone else's account because I'm permanently banned for an unknown reason. So they just,
And
yeah,
you're even
it's
verified.
well, I'm not anymore. I was, but I stopped doing it because they wouldn't give me my ad account back.
Oh, so they verified you and then they wouldn't
I
give you
was
your ad account
verified.
out.
Yeah, I was verified and I got and they you know they won't give it back and they won't even say why either, which is interesting in of itself. So yeah, I have my own set of issues with them and they're super strict and annoying. And at the same time I still do use them because obviously Facebook's where I've grown my whole business. I use Instagram, the podcast and so forth, but you know you got to play their game if you want to be a part of their world, I suppose. But I just don't want to entirely rely on it. That's why I have an email list. That's why I don't just use one platform. But Meta sort of runs the world at this point. Like they own Instagram as well and all the things. So
Do you
yeah,
feel that? So they totally have a different feel and everyone has a different perspective. So I look at Instagram and a lot of Instagram is ads now. Like everything that comes up on my feed seems to be a lot of ads. But they're not as it doesn't seem like they're as restrictive on Instagram.
yeah, no. I think
Although,
because Instagram is, you can use it for a business, whereas a personal Facebook profile is not designed to run a business on.
yeah,
Like they don't want you to run a business. They want you to run ads on a Facebook page.
Facebook.
Yeah.
But can't
Yeah.
you? I was thinking that you can boost posts from your profile now if it's labeled business, right?
Yeah, exactly though. You have to make it a business profile. Yep.
Right, right. I I know that the stories are like my accounts are connected. So like everything that's happening over on Facebook is affecting my Instagram. They won't let me post any stories. And at first I was like,
Weird.
oh, like how am I supposed to post about my master class? And then I was like, oh well, I guess I won't do that today.
Mhm.
Like
Oh
what
gosh.
can I
At
do?
least you're
Like
in TikTok. I see your TikToks.
yeah, I'm loving I have realized that I love TikTok and I love YouTube. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to I don't really like the only thing I've been using Instagram for was stories. The only thing that I decided, well, I just might as well cross promote everything on Facebook and Instagram. Like, why was I not? You know why? Because years ago, people said, don't do the same thing on Instagram that you're doing on Facebook. And now I'm like, you know what? All these TikTokers are just sharing their same stuff everywhere. So why would it matter?
Mm.
I don't think people care. I think the only people that care are business owners and business coaches. I'm going to be straight up. Like business
Mm.
coaches all want to say that we
I
have,
post the same thing everywhere. I don't reinvent the wheel
right?
on any platform. No
How
way. Too much effort.
exhausting would it be?
Yeah, no, no,
That's
no,
why I
no.
let
Can't do that.
Instagram go. I was like, oh my God, that's just too exhausting. Now I'm like,
Yeah,
who cares? I don't even think it makes a difference if you have the watermark from TikTok on it, because I haven't seen anything different
yeah. No.
anyway. Okay, so I'm going to share your what link would you like me to share in the description of this so people can get in touch with you or download whatever? What would you
I
like?
can send you a few links. I guess if you're
Perfect.
listening to this on the podcast, you're probably interested in podcasts, in which case, I've got an episode where I'm about to interview Lynn on as well, called Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. So I upload episodes every week there. And then, yeah, as we've just discussed, I spend a lot of time on both Facebook and Instagram, and I'm at Sophia Rose Bernardi for both of those platforms. But I'll send you all of the things so people can get some free resources and yeah,
Yes.
do all of
And
that.
definitely get into her Facebook group, because she's in there often, and she sets my audience is on Facebook too a lot, and she has lots
Yeah,
of
well,
gems.
that's where I hang, and because everything I post on Instagram just goes on Facebook anyway, and in my group is where I run these workshops and things like that, and
Mhm.
they're packed full of value. Like I was saying to Lynn, like they might as well be paid. So it's a pretty good place to come if you want to learn strategy,
Yeah.
marketing, sales, events. Yeah.
Y'all, I joined her mastermind. She like connected with me in comments of a group, and I was like, yeah. And then she's like, here's a free training, 3-part training series. And I like listened to it on double time, and I was like, okay, send me the link to your mastermind. And then I joined.
It
Like,
was the best. I'll
it's a
never forget it.
no-brainer. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
no-brainer. For
You're
strategy, it's
awesome.
definitely a no-brainer. And just full disclosure, I think I can be an affiliate. So I'll start next time you have a big launch, let me know, and I'll offer people something free if they join. I'm all
Oh,
about
that's very awesome.
collaborations.
Me
Like,
too, actually. Let's discuss that. That will be
yeah,
awesome.
let's do, because I'm all about it. Super duper about
Yeah.
it. Okay, everyone. Thanks for
Thanks
listening.
for having me.